they always come back. You know it, whether it's weeks, months, or even years later. Once you've finally started breathing again without the weight of their memory, once the pain isn't your daily shadow, they resurface. Suddenly, they remember the love they once ignored. Suddenly, they're sorry. Suddenly, you're all they ever wanted. But where was that urgency when you were begging for honesty? Where was that love when you were drowning in silence, waiting for them to show up for you the way you showed up for them? You see, people don't always return because they've grown. Many return because they see you have. They return not out of love, but out of loss. They miss the version of you who tolerated being second. They miss the safety you gave, the forgiveness you offered too freely, the loyalty you poured into someone who didn't earn it. And when they see you've reclaimed your self-worth, when they sense that you've stopped needing them, that's when the panic sets in, because you've become something they never expected, unavailable. But here's what most people don't talk about: the temptation to take them back. The way your heart skips at the sight of their name lighting up your phone. The way your mind replays the good memories, carefully cropping out the pain. The truth is, it's easy to forget the hurt when you're lonely. It's easy to confuse familiarity with love. It's dangerously easy to mistake their return for a second chance from the universe, when it's really just a test of how much you've grown. Let's be real. Closure doesn't always come neatly wrapped with an apology. Sometimes closure is choosing yourself when you have the option not to. It's remembering that someone who truly valued you would have fought to keep you before you ever walked away. That someone who let you go without a second thought doesn't deserve a front row seat to the life you rebuilt. This video isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. It's about recognizing your journey, your healing, your strength. It's about understanding that your growth deserves protection and your peace is sacred. You're not here to be someone's emotional backup plan. You're not here to be reused, recycled, or relabeled as the one that got away just because they finally feel your absence louder than your presence. You didn't survive all that pain just to go back to the fire that burned you. So, before you respond to that message, before you fall into old patterns dressed up as new promises, ask yourself, is this love or is this longing? Is this real change or just regret wearing perfume? Are they showing up to love you better or to feel better about themselves? This isn't just a video. This is your moment of clarity. This is the voice reminding you of your worth. This is your chance to choose power over pity, peace over patterns, healing over history. They're coming back. But should you take them back? Let's uncover the 7 truths that will guide you, not with emotion, but with wisdom. Number 1, remember why they left in the first place. It's easy to forget the truth when the apology sounds sweet. It's easy to get swept up in the illusion of a clean slate when someone suddenly wants back in. But before you open the door, you need to revisit why it was closed. They didn't just vanish in silence. They didn't drift away by accident. There was pain, and it wasn't one-sided. There were patterns of distance, of broken promises, of emotional neglect. Maybe they stopped showing up when it mattered. Maybe they chose someone else. Maybe they dismissed your needs until you no longer recognized yourself. Whatever the reason, it mattered then, and it matters now. Because when people leave, they leave a version of themselves imprinted in your memory, and unless they've transformed deeply, that same version is walking right back through your door. You didn't break for no reason. You didn't cry for no reason. You didn't walk away because you were impatient. You walked because you were exhausted. When someone tells you they've changed, it's not enough to hear it. You have to believe it based on what you know, not what you hope. But the danger is this: when they come back, they often seem softer, sweeter, more aware. They say they've had time to think, that they didn't realize what they had. But clarity in absence doesn't always lead to commitment in presence. Some people miss the control, not the connection. They miss your attention, not your essence. They miss the comfort, not the commitment. That's why you have to look backward, not to reopen old wounds, but to make sure you never bleed the same way again. Because history doesn't lie, but emotions do, especially when you crave closure or companionship. You don't have to demonize them, but you do need to be honest about how they made you feel. You need to remember the nights you felt invisible, the days you questioned your worth, the moment you realized love should never feel like begging. The human heart is forgiving, but your healing isn't a playground. Don't let nostalgia convince you to ignore the very lessons that set you free. George Santayana once said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." That's not just philosophy, it's a warning. This isn't just about whether they want you back. It's about whether you're willing to go back to who you were when they hurt you. Drop this in the comments. I remember what I survived. I won't relive it. Number 2, has anything truly changed? Change is easy to claim and hard to prove. The moment someone feels the sting of losing you, the first instinct is to say they're different now, to paint a new version of themselves that fits your expectations. But you've heard it before. You've heard the apologies. You've heard the promises. You've heard them say they're not that person anymore. The question is, have they shown you anything different? Because real change doesn't come with a speech. It comes with silence, with time, with patterns that shift consistently when no one's watching. Real change isn't just about missing you. It's about doing the internal work that made losing you even possible. That means facing their ego. That means taking accountability without excuses. That means they didn't just change because they lost you. They changed because they grew into someone who no longer takes love for granted. So when they say, "I've changed," what exactly do they mean? Have they gone to therapy? Have they learned to communicate rather than manipulate? Have they taken responsibility for how they treated you? Or are they simply desperate to stop feeling guilty? Because you're not here to soothe someone else's regret. You're not here to be the reward for someone who just realized what you always knew, that you were worth fighting for the first time around. And if they're telling you what you want to hear, but acting exactly the same, then nothing has changed except the strategy. The packaging is different, but the pattern is the same. If they still avoid accountability, if they still shift the blame, if they still get defensive when you express your hurt, then they haven't evolved. They've adapted. And adaptation without growth is just manipulation in disguise. This is where your clarity must be stronger than your craving. This is where you look beyond the charm, the nostalgia, the familiar voice, and ask, where's the proof? Are they meeting you with integrity? Are they respecting your boundaries without question? Are they rebuilding your trust with patience and presence? Because words can comfort you in the short term, but only actions will protect you in the long run. Epictetus once said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" The truth is, if you have to ask whether they've changed, they probably haven't. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I need action, not apologies. Number 3, don't let guilt manipulate you. Guilt is a powerful tool in the hands of someone who doesn't want to take full responsibility for their actions. It's not always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it comes wrapped in vulnerability, disguised as regret, dressed up as love. You'll hear them say, "I wasn't in the right headspace," or "You were too good for me," or even, "I was scared of how much I loved you." But listen closely, because behind those soft words is often a subtle shift of blame. They're not really apologizing. They're positioning themselves as victims of their own struggle so that you feel obligated to understand. And the more you understand, the more you minimize your own pain. That's how guilt works. It convinces you that your empathy is more important than your boundaries. It asks you to carry the weight of their shame just so they can feel lighter. But you didn't leave because they were broken. You left because they refused to heal. You didn't ask for perfection, only presence. You didn't need them to have it all together just to try. But now that they've lost access to you, they want to rewrite the story. Suddenly, your leaving becomes their pain point. Suddenly, their suffering is the center of the conversation. And just like that, your healing gets put on the shelf so their guilt can take the spotlight. But you are not responsible for someone else's journey they refused to take when it mattered. You are not a therapist. You are not a savior. You are not here to rescue someone from the consequences of their own decisions. Emotional manipulation doesn't always look like control. It often looks like remorse that demands your mercy. But guilt is not growth. Tears are not transformation. Apologies mean nothing when they're only offered to ease their conscience, not repair what they broke. And if they're using guilt to pull you back in, they're still thinking of themselves, not you. They want relief, not redemption. They want comfort, not connection. And you deserve more than to be someone's emotional bandage. Your peace is not a price you pay for someone else's awakening. You've already done your share of forgiving, of understanding, of waiting. Now it's time to protect yourself from the very thing that once kept you stuck, your empathy being weaponized. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And if they're still ruled by guilt, they're not ready to love you with freedom. Drop this in the comments. Their guilt is not my responsibility. Number 4, check your reasons. Are you lonely or in love? Sometimes it's not the person we miss. It's the feeling of being wanted, the security of having someone, the comfort of familiarity. Loneliness has a sneaky way of rewriting history, softening the edges of our pain and magnifying the moments of joy. It convinces you that maybe it wasn't as toxic as you remember. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe being with someone, even if they were inconsistent or cold, was better than this aching silence. But that's not love. That's fear in disguise. The fear of being alone. The fear that no one else will understand you. The fear that you've missed your only chance at connection. And when you act from fear, you don't choose love. You choose escape. So when that message comes through, when the past knocks at your door, take a breath and ask yourself with brutal honesty, do I want them or do I just want someone? Because love is about choosing a person who contributes to your peace, your growth, your strength, not someone who disturbs it and then apologizes later. If the thought of going back is driven by emptiness, it's not love, it's a distraction. Loneliness is not a good enough reason to welcome back the person who made you feel alone, even when they were beside you. And if you're measuring their worth by how much you miss them, you're looking at the wrong metric. Missing someone doesn't mean they're good for you. It means you're human. It means you felt something real. But don't confuse emotional history with emotional health. Just because it was intense doesn't mean it was healthy. Just because it had highs doesn't mean the lows were worth it. And just because you were once deeply in love doesn't mean it still fits the person you've become. Relationships born from loneliness often end in regret because they start with a wound instead of a foundation. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." So does this person bring out the best in you, or do they bring you back to your worst? You owe it to yourself to choose peace over patterns, wholeness over habit. You've worked too hard to build something solid within yourself just to let loneliness tear it down. The next time you feel tempted to reply just because you don't want to be alone, remember, solitude is strength when it protects you from settling. Drop this in the comments. I will not settle for companionship at the cost of my peace. Number 5. Evaluate the damage. Is the trust repairable? Trust is the silent foundation of every real connection. It's what allows love to breathe, to grow, to feel safe. Once that foundation is cracked through lies, betrayal, neglect, or emotional abandonment, it doesn't just heal with time. It requires effort, consistency, and humility from the one who caused the break. And even then, sometimes the damage is too severe. Sometimes, no matter how badly you wish things could go back to how they were, the truth is that something vital has been lost. You may still care, still feel attached, still hold on to the hope that they'll do better, but love without trust isn't love. It's fear masquerading as loyalty. If you find yourself constantly questioning their words, second-guessing their motives, or bracing yourself for disappointment, you're not rebuilding a relationship. You're walking through ruins, pretending they're still a home. Familiarity isn't safety. Just because they've been a part of your life doesn't mean they still deserve access to your heart. Ask yourself, do you genuinely believe they're capable of honoring your vulnerability this time? Or are you simply afraid to start over with someone new? Real trust requires more than apologies. It needs accountability, transparency, and a willingness to be uncomfortable in the name of growth. And if the person who hurt you isn't actively working to earn back what they broke, then every second you spend hoping is a second you deny your own worth. You deserve a relationship where you don't have to be suspicious to feel protected. You deserve a connection where love doesn't come with disclaimers. J.E.B. Spredeman said, "Trust, once lost, could not be easily found. Not in a year, perhaps not even in a lifetime. And if the person coming back expects you to erase the past without rebuilding what was lost, that's not reconciliation. That's selfishness." You are not required to stay in a place where your intuition feels threatened. You are not obligated to open your heart to someone who once treated it like an afterthought. The right love won't demand blind trust. It will earn it, protect it, and never take it for granted again. Drop this in the comments. I deserve love I can trust. Number 6. Ask yourself, would I want this for my future self? Before you make any decision, pause and look forward, not backward. Think about the person you're becoming, not the one you were when you loved them the most. Not the one who tolerated emotional chaos because it was all you knew. Picture the strongest, happiest, most fulfilled version of yourself. The version that no longer questions their worth. The version that walks with clarity, not confusion. The version that doesn't shrink to keep the peace. Ask yourself honestly, does this person from your past align with the future you're trying to build? Or are they a piece of an old life that you've already outgrown? Too often, we let the present moment trick us into making decisions that sabotage the life we're working toward. We feel lonely now, so we forget how drained we felt then. We feel nostalgic now, so we minimize the damage that made us leave. But the cost of going backward is the life that forward could have given you. You don't owe your future self a second round of the same pain just because someone suddenly remembered your value. If you want a life of peace, don't invite in what once caused chaos. If you want a future of confidence, don't settle for someone who made you doubt everything. The truth is, every decision you make today is either an investment in your healing or a debt you'll have to pay later in regret. And if the person you were healing from is the same one asking for another chance, be very cautious, because you're not just saying yes to them, you're saying yes to the version of yourself you had to fight so hard to grow past. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. You already know what you want: peace, loyalty, respect, truth. Don't lower that standard now that someone from the past is knocking. If they didn't fit into the life you're dreaming of before, what makes you think they'll suddenly align with it now?" Drop this in the comments. I'm building a future, not recycling my past. Number 7, protect your growth at all costs. You didn't survive everything just to end up right back where you started. You didn't break, rebuild, and rise just to be pulled into the same cycle that once dimmed your spirit. You've done the work, whether in silence, in solitude, or in moments when no one noticed. You've found your voice, set your boundaries, learned to breathe without begging, and discovered who you are without their validation. That growth wasn't accidental. It was earned through pain, reflection, and relentless self-respect. Now that they've returned, it's not just your heart on the line, it's your evolution. Letting them back in isn't just about love. It's about whether or not you're willing to jeopardize what took so long to restore. People often want access to the new you while still treating you like the old version they broke. But that chapter is over, and you don't owe anyone a rewrite. Just because they're knocking doesn't mean the door should open. Just because they regret doesn't mean you should regress. Your healing is not an invitation, it's a boundary. It says, "I know who I am now, and I will no longer accept what once wounded me." It's tempting to believe they see your worth now, but be careful not to confuse their interest with your improvement. Sometimes people don't miss you, they miss the control, the comfort, the convenience. And if their return feels like a threat to your peace, it's not a second chance. It's a setback in disguise. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And you have finally begun to live, fully, freely, fearlessly. So guard that new life with everything you've got, because the most dangerous decision you can make is trading growth for nostalgia or choosing familiarity over fulfillment. Your progress should not be sacrificed for the sake of proving you're still available to someone who didn't value you the first time. You've already been the broken version. Now, be the version who protects what was rebuilt. Listen. They might come back with the sweetest words. They might finally say all the right things. But this isn't about them. This is about you. Will you protect the version of yourself that survived? Will you choose growth over comfort, peace over pity, closure over chaos? You don't need another chance with them. You need to honor the second chance you gave yourself. If this hit home for you, don't scroll away. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because this channel is your safe space for healing, growth, and rising higher every single week. Share your story in the comments. Your breakthrough could be someone else's survival guide. Until next time, choose your peace. Guard your heart, protect your power,